Hello my chicklets, thank you for stopping by. Today we will be reading day 21 in our Soulmate September series. This was a choose your own day but combine them, so I chose that you have the same tattoo as your soulmate, but also when it is time for you and your soulmate to meet, you are both drawn to a specific object. This story is called The Story of Us. Janus was immortal. He had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. He had seen society accept, reject, and then once again accept different types of people. He had seen that humans don't really change, and he had seen the world several times over. Immortality was boring. At least, it was boring without Romulus. Standing up from his office chair, Janus began to walk around his office, looking at all of the different items he had found that had led him to his soulmate. When Janus was much younger, and still mortal, he had fallen in love with the god of creativity. Romulus was chaotic, he was romantic, and most importantly, he was unpredictable. But Romulus hadn't liked the life of a god. He wanted to be with the people. He said there was a beautiful fragility in the shortness of their lives, so he gave his immortality and eternal youth to Janus to protect. Not that Janus had asked for it, but Romulus knew that his divinity and power would resurrect every time he was reborn. He had selfishly wanted Janus by his side for the rest of eternity, and when someone is that smooth, it's hard to say no. It was always hard to say no to Romulus. There had been lifetimes when Janus had gotten angry at waiting and decided not to find his soulmate, to not follow the items as they pulled him to the person he knew he would eventually love again. Fate did not like it when he did that, and neither did Romulus. Janus smiled at the memories as he began to look through his collection. He rubbed the tattoo on his arm, a shield and a sword surrounded by a snake winding its way between the two. The god of romantic relations had created two ways for people to find their soulmates: a unique tattoo which they shared only with their soulmate, and an item they would be drawn to when the time was right for them to meet. Apparently, he thought humans were stupid. He wasn't wrong. Not to mention, Janus was thankful to have a collection of memories from Romulus, and he was thankful to have the tattoo when it came to explaining his and Romulus's past lives. It was almost time to meet again. Almost time for him to seek out Romulus. He could feel the pull to the item. It felt different this time. He would never admit it, but he was excited to see what fate had planned for him. He began walking down the street, letting himself be pulled towards this new item. But then the pull shifted. He was being pulled in two separate directions. His brow furrowed in confusion as he chose the direction where the pull was strongest. He had never been pulled in two directions before, and his mind was already going through the different options of what was happening. Had the god decided to give them another soulmate? One who would fill in some of the lonely gaps while Romulus was gone? Or was the second item a precaution? His instincts led him to a park where a glass sculpture of a sea creature sat sparkling in the sunlight. The sea creature was a first. Romulus normally had more of a fascination with beasts tied to the old gods, and this looked like some type of octopus. Nowhere near the stories and pictures of krakens Janus had been seeing for years. Picking up the sculpture, Janus began to head in the direction of the other pole. Sometimes the items were highly symbolic, giving Janus a hint about his soulmate rather than a straightforward clue, and other times they were simply straightforward. One lifetime he had gotten a wooden flower. He didn't understand the importance until years later when Romulus picked up carpentry as a trade. Another lifetime he had found a sword. Romulus had been a knight when they first met. Janus wondered if Romulus would be a glassworker this time, or if he would choose to do something involving sea animals. Janus's confusion only grew as he felt the pull stop him in front of a book, red leather bound with a castle on top. What could these two very different items mean? "I'm telling you, I'm not following you, I'm being pulled this way too." "You are a cotton-headed ninny-muggins if you think I believe that." There was a loud gasp. "You take that back!" There were 2 people approaching the clearing where Janus had found the book, and when he turned to look at them, he couldn't help but roll his eyes. Oh yes, because this totally makes sense. They both looked like Romulus, but not. If Janus didn't know any better, he would think they were Romulus's sons, but Romulus had never had eyes for anyone but him. "Ooh, this hottie's mine." "Remus, you cannot just assume." "Remus?" Romulus had always said if he had a different name, it would have been Remus, or maybe Roman. That was how the Roman Empire had been named, purely from Romulus's hubris. This was... oh, joy. Janus muttered under his breath before setting down the figurine and catching Remus as he flung himself at Janus. It was still him. They were still him, in a way. "I knew it! He's my soulmate. He caught me, so he's my soulmate." "That's not how you tell if someone is your soulmate. I apologize for my brother. Would it be all right if we could see your tattoo?" "Only if you show me yours. That does seem fair, doesn't it?" The other twin began to roll up his sleeve, and Janus tried to hide his frown. He was certain that these 2 were pieces of Romulus, and the tattoo only proved it. The less chaotic twin, Janus was going to assume his name was Roman, though he hadn't been introduced, had the same tattoo, but it was missing half of the snake, and there were areas where it was obviously missing its connection to the sword. Remus had pulled away from him and was also showing off his tattoo, the other half of the snake, and the sword that was missing from its shield. Janus slowly pulled up his sleeve and showed the 2 of them the completed tattoo. "Well, this isn't confusing at all. Seriously, if I get my hands on that god," he muttered, trying not to bite his lip. "Oh, hell no!" Remus shouted. "I'm not sharing a soulmate with you!" And the 2 began to fight, and Janus rubbed his temples before clapping his hands loudly and shouting, "Shut up!" It silenced both of them. "This is going to be a long day. Sit down and let me tell you a story." Thank you all for listening. Again, this was day 21 of our Soulmate September series, The Story of Us. If you're curious about this one, I am planning on eventually turning it into a full book. However, that is a little bit down the line, so I do hope you stick around. I do hope you enjoyed this today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.